Good evening, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Patricia Roxton Hammond, coming to you live from our studios at Kwabenya Point 1. This is NEWSBOARD. Let's take a look at our headlines in Ghana and around the world. Ghana Health Service has launched a 5-day countrywide immunization campaign. Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram Sam George has revealed NDC will ensure justice for the victims of Ayawaso violence. The Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications has cautioned SIM registration agents to desist from charging fees. And the trial of alleged killers of the revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara suspended due to coup. You can also watch us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at NewTVGH. Now to the details. Government says there is no official mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy in Ghana. According to government, although its position with regards to COVID-19 vaccination is backed by data, there is no current mandate requiring mandatory vaccine rollout within the country.
The letter written by the Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Anthony Nsia Asari, noted that the vaccination exercise had become necessary because, quote, there was a clear evidence of the public health impact of vaccination in terms of infections, hospitalization, deaths prevented, and improved health outcomes that cannot simply be brushed aside. Meanwhile, in another letter to the presidency, the doctors raised further concerns about the vaccination program, noting that government's response that the vaccination rollout was not mandatory was in contradiction to directives by the Ghana Health Service. Data from the Ministry of Health show that as of January 27, 2022, a little over 3.5 million people, representing 17.7% of the population, had been fully vaccinated, while a little more than 7 million, representing 36.1% of the population, had received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. The data also shows that over 1,000 people had received their first booster dose.
As part of its attempt to promote the adoption of the COVID-19 vaccine, the Ghana Health Service has started a 5-day countrywide immunization campaign. National vaccination days will take place from Wednesday 2nd February through Sunday 6th February 2022.
Codenamed Operation 2.5 million doses in 5 days, the campaign intends to target at least 20% of the 13.2 million population who remains unvaccinated. All people 15 years and above, including pregnant women, are eligible to receive the vaccine. Deputy Health Minister Madam Tina Mensah said it was also to help achieve the herd immunity target of 20 million people.
COVID-19 pandemic has impacted individuals, families, communities, and entire economy in many ways. Interestingly, across the globe, the spread of COVID-19 continues to cause disease, death, and destruction, and has pushed even the most advanced health system to the edge. Following the outbreak of COVID-19 in March 2020, the government of Ghana put in place several measures to manage the situation and prevent further spread of the virus in country. Although Ghana is currently experiencing the 4th wave of the pandemic with the detection of the Omicron variant across the country, the proportion of severe and critical cases are relatively low, thanks to the country's vaccination drive.
As of January 28, 2022, Ghana's COVID-19 confirmed cases stood at more than 100,000 for an estimated 2.2 million tests conducted, whilst almost 1,500 people had lost their lives to the disease, with active cases standing at 4,185. The minister further said the healthcare workers, persons with underlying medical conditions, persons who are 60 years and above, frontline security personnel, members of the executive, the judiciary, and legislature are expected to have booster vaccination. The Director General of the GHS, Dr. Patrick Kuma-Abwaje, assured the public that all the vaccines deployed were safe, effective, free, and provided adequate protection.
Vaccination has been proven to be the most effective way to protect against COVID-19 disease. COVID-19 vaccines prevent severe illness, hospitalization, and death. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, and most importantly, also free. The Ministry of Health and Ghana Health Service and partners are more than ever determined to stop the spread of COVID-19 and to reduce the impact on the lives of people living in Ghana. It is time to do our part by observing the preventive measures and getting vaccinated.
Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Sam George has revealed that it is only the next NDC government that will ensure justice for the victims of Ayawaso violence. Speaking at a forum organized by the National Democratic Congress to mark the 3rd anniversary of the violence, Sam George urged supporters not to give up but throw their weight behind the NDC.
The Ayawaso West by-election took place on January 31st, 2019, after the death of the prominent Member of Parliament Emmanuel Chermanting Anyako on November 21st, 2018. Violence erupted in the area of the La Baoleshi polling station 2 hours after the election had started. Though there were no deaths recorded, there were casualties. Mr. Sam George was assaulted, and the media reports indicated that 18 people were wounded by gunshots. Mr. Sam George has sworn to pursue justice for himself.
The next NDC government will reopen an inquiry into the Ayawaso West Wagon vigilante incident and secure justice for the victims. If I trust anyone to give us justice, to ensure that the people of this country get justice, it is the NDC. It is the NDC that will bring justice to the victims of Ayawaso West Wagon. The man who benefited from the injustice, the man who benefited from the violence will never give us justice. But so long as God exists, all we pray is for long life. And he will set a table before us in the presence of our enemies, and our cup will surely run over. There's a reason God allowed you to live. It is for you to see the day of justice. And the day of justice beckons swiftly. It shall come. And on that day, let all who have been silent for the past 3 years remain silent. For justice will be served on a very cold dish in this country.
Speaking at a forum organized by the National Democratic Congress to mark the 3rd anniversary, on 31st January 2019, Managing Director of the Insight newspaper, Kwesi Pratt Jr., says politics and violence cannot be bedfellows, and that anyone or group that introduces violence into our politics is a criminal and a nation wrecker that must not be allowed to succeed.
This is our matter. 1, because those who introduce violence into our politics subvert democracy. Those who introduce violence into the politics, they rig elections. Introducing violence into elections is like rigging elections. Because you introduce violence into election in order to intimidate people to run away, not to take part in the elections. You introduce violence into the election for you to do the things that are against the law. You introduce violence into the election when you are afraid of the true mandate of the people. So those who introduce violence into our politics, into our elections, are criminals. Those who introduce violence into our politics, into our elections and so on, subvert the will of the people. Those who introduce violence into our politics are determined to wreck this nation, and they must never be allowed to succeed. Today, on this ground, to my left, are victims of what happened at Ayawaso Wagon. Some of them 3 years later cannot walk. Some of them are incapable of working to earn a decent living. Some of them, their dependents are suffering. Some of them, their dependents are not able to go to school. Some of them are struggling to feed themselves and their dependents. Some of them are in constant pain. They have been in pain for 3 long years. If you are a Ghanaian and you don't rise up and speak about the pain of these victims, I don't know what kind of Ghanaian you are.
Moving on to some business stories, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has reiterated the central bank's commitment to continuously create an enabling environment that would promote an effective bank operation, economic growth and development. He said the Bank of Ghana has taken proactive steps to prove the above through the provision of supportive directives, regulations, policies and guidelines on cybersecurity against risk.
It has been almost 2 years since the comprehensive reforms ended to restore credibility and confidence to the banking system. Since then, the Bank of Ghana has issued a number of directives, including the corporate governance disclosure requirements, which promotes and enhances transparency and accountability to stakeholders. The bank continues to keenly monitor all banks to ensure the stability and soundness of the industry. With the current advances in technology and the growth of fintechs in the financial service space, we encourage the Republic Bank to keep pace with the shift towards electronic-driven products and services. In line with the objective of customer centralism, we expect that financial digitization will shape banking business to compete with fintechs in the payment system space.
The Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications has cautioned SIM registration agents of mobile network operators to desist from charging fees in the ongoing SIM card registration. The Chamber, in a statement, said it is illegal and fraudulent for anybody to pay any amount as the cost of registration.
According to the statement, quote, the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunication, on behalf of its members, Airtel, Tigo, MTN, and Vodafone, wishes to notify its esteemed customers and the general public that the ongoing SIM re-registration exercise is absolutely free and subscribers are not supposed to pay any agent any fee. The general public has also been advised against making payment for the re-registration exercise. The re-registration of the mobile SIM cards is expected to last for 6 months, ending on March 31st, 2022.
As expected, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has kept the policy rate at 14.5%. This is the first time the rate has been kept same since it was adjusted upwards by 100 basis points in November 2021. Consequently, cost of borrowing is expected to remain relatively same for the next 2.5 months.
The latest forecast shows that inflation would likely remain above target in the near term, driven by both external and domestic factors, and only return to target in about 4 quarters ahead. The key risks to inflation outlook include rising crude oil prices and its transmission to ex-pump petroleum prices and transportation costs, rising global inflation, food price uncertainties, and the fiscal outlook, the central bank said in its MPC report. The Monetary Policy Committee expected this scenario when it raised the policy rate in November 20 to contain the inherent aggregate demand pressures likely to drive prices in the outlook. The committee thinks the dynamics associated with the November 2021 policy rate hike are yet to be fully transmitted and expects the decisive implementation of the fiscal correction measures, especially the 20% cut in expenditure, to help moderate the upside risk to the inflation outlook, it explained.
We'll be right back with more news after this break. Welcome back. And on to some international news. A court in Burkina Faso has suspended the trial of the alleged killers of the revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara, who was assassinated in 1987. Mr. Sankara's family asked for the suspension following last week's coup. They said they wanted it to resume once constitutional order has been restored. The African Union on Monday suspended Burkina Faso 3 days after it was suspended by the West African Regional Bloc. A joint United Nations ECOWAS delegation is in Ouagadougou for talks with the new military leaders. Mali's military leaders are expelling the French ambassador over what they called outrageous comment made by the French foreign minister about the transitional government. France said it was recalling João Meyer, who was given 72 hours to leave.
The French foreign minister last week said the Mali junta was illegitimate and out of control. Western powers are also concerned about Russia's growing involvement in the former French colony. Moscow reportedly sent military advisors in recent weeks to bolster local security forces in their fight with jihadist insurgents. Unconfirmed reports say hundreds of Russian mercenaries are also operating in the country. France, which intervened in 2013 to support the government against the jihadists, plans to reduce its own troop deployment. In another interview, the French foreign minister accused Russian mercenaries of, quote, helping themselves to the country's resources in exchange for protecting the junta. Relations between France and Mali have deteriorated since the army seized power in August 2020. Tensions increased further this month when the junta reversed an agreement to arrange elections in February and vowed to hold power until 2025.
There have been angry clashes between Russian and U.S. envoys at the UN Security Council after the U.S. called a meeting to discuss Moscow's troop buildup on its borders with Ukraine. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield said the mobilization was the biggest Europe had seen in decades. Her Russian counterpart accused the U.S. of fomenting hysteria and unacceptable interference in Russia's affairs. The U.S. and UK have promised further sanctions if Russia invades Ukraine.
Russia has placed an estimated 100,000 troops, tanks, artillery, and missiles near Ukraine's frontier. Diplomatic efforts continue with U.S. Secretary of State due to hold talks with Russian Foreign Minister. The U.S. said it had received a written response from Russia to a U.S. proposal aimed at de-escalating the crisis in Ukraine. A State Department spokesperson said the U.S. remained fully committed to dialogue and would continue to consult closely with its allies and partners, including Ukraine. Meanwhile, a number of European leaders are traveling to Ukraine on Tuesday for talks. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is flying to Kyiv after promising to work with Ukraine president to find a diplomatic solution to arguments with Moscow and avoid further bloodshed.
And on to some sports stories. Accra Hearts of Oak have secured the services of veteran Black Stars player Sule Ali Muntari on a short-term deal subject to renewal. The Ghana Premier League champions had concluded paperwork with Muntari, and he is expected to be officially introduced by the club.
The midfielder, who scored 20 goals in 84 appearances for the Black Stars between 2002 and 2014, will be with the club for the rest of the season, following which both parties could negotiate a renewal of contract. Muntari has been training with the Phobians in recent days to keep fit, and his signing with the Phobians will be welcome news, as the strong player has a wealth of experience to help revive Hearts' title defense. The former Liberty professional player became a free agent in 2019 after he severed ties with Spanish club Albacete after a short stint. The former Liberty professional player became a free agent in 2019 after he severed ties with Spanish club Albacete after a short stint. He is expected to bring a wealth of experience to bear on coach Samuel Bedu's side.
Cal Toko Ikambi scored a brace for Cameroon as they comfortably beat lowly ranked Gambia 2-0 in Saturday's African Cup of Nations quarter-final to become the first side to book a place in the last four. The two goals came in 7 minutes best in the second half as Cameroon finally converted their superiority into goals in front of an ecstatic crowd at the Japoma Stadium.
Toko Ikambi got his first goal with a 50-minute header, and then in the 57th minute snuck in behind the Gambian defense to tap home a square pass for the second goal. Cameroon will meet Egypt after they beat Morocco in extra time to reach the semi-finals. The tournament hosts completely dominated the encounter against Gambia, who at the 150th position in the FIFA rankings were the lowest-ranked team coming into the 24-team tournament. Gambia, making their debut at the finals, had upset wins over Tunisia and Guinea on their way to the last 8, but were almost unanimous on Saturday as they saw little of the ball and spent almost all the match on the back foot.
And on to some entertainment news. 2022 seems to be another record-breaking year for one of Ghanaians' biggest gospel music export, Empress Gifty. According to reports, she has now inked a new performance deal with Dawn Music Production, the organizers of Ghana Music Awards USA, for their 2022 upcoming nominees announcement, which is scheduled to happen on April 16, 2022.
The gospel music icon, who has been a blessing to Africa and a pacesetter in her genre of music, is undoubtedly the favorite of many music lovers in Ghana and Africa. after making appreciable strides last year and rocking stages of huge musical concerts in Ghana and beyond the borders. She has now inked a new performance deal with Dawn Music Production, the organizers of Ghana Music Awards USA, for their 2022 upcoming nominees announcements, which is scheduled to happen on April 16, 2022, at Grand Roosevelt Ballroom in the United States of America. Aside the nominees' announcement performance, Empress Gifty will mount the stage again to perform at the main event scheduled to take place on August 20th at the Lincoln Theater. The gospel artiste is expected to perform all her hit songs with her band. According to her, quote, 2022 promises to be much more exciting beginning with this GMA USA contract and performance opportunity. The people of USA should prepare for the experience from me and my team.
And finally, workers at the Center for National Culture in Accra are against moves by the government to relocate the Arts Center to the Ghana House as part of measures to make way for the Marine Drive project. The divisional chairman of the Center for National Culture, Isaac Mensah, said the decision to move staff of the Arts Center is wrong. He therefore pleaded with the Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture to have a stakeholder meeting with their union to take a decision on the way forward.
According to the divisional chairman of the Center for National Culture, Isaac Mensah, the relocation of workers, artisans, and traders at the Arts Center to Kaukidi and Ghana House is perhaps just a ploy to cover up a grand agenda of closing down all the centers for national culture, which are committed to the promotion of our culture. Speaking at a press conference at the auditorium of the Arts Center on Thursday, January 27th, to address some issues regarding the relocation of the center, Mr. Mensah pointed out that happenings at some of the cultural centers validated their suspicions. Mr. Mensah also pointed out that the Public Service Workers Union and its associations were not against the Marine Drive project, but were calling for the Arts Center to be incorporated into it to make it more meaningful.
And that's it for NEWSBOARD. Let's take a look again at our headlines. Ghana Health Service has launched a 5-day countrywide immunization campaign. Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, Sam George, has revealed NDC will ensure justice for the victims of Ayawaso violence. The Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications has cautioned SIM registration agents to desist from charging fees. And the trial of alleged killers of the revolutionary leader, Thomas Sankara, suspended due to coup. Thanks for watching. My name is Patricia Roxanne Hammond. We came to you live from our studios at Kwabenya Point 1. Good evening.